evening to everybody. We are going again and again to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is, I call it sometimes, the unsolved conflict. And probably we need another tens of years to continue talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It looks like by talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the main job right now in the Middle East. We don't have any other source of income except talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Indeed, I am very upset and I am very angry towards the attitude of the Palestinian Authority in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict since the Oslo Agreement until today. Unfortunately, we the Palestinians became so divided society right now. Since the Hamas took over the Gaza Strip in 2007, we are unable to reach any kind of unity or any kind of reconciliation among the two biggest Palestinian political movements, which is the Hamas and the Fatah. Besides that, we almost signed 5 different agreements between the Fatah and the Hamas to achieve unity and reconciliation, but looks like as much as agreements we are signing, as much as backward, we are moving from the main aim and the main goal. I would like to start a little bit with the Gaza Strip, because no doubt Gaza became one of the major obstacles in front of peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis. I want to touch a little bit the last summer war in 2014. I remember that I wrote an article in the middle of the war on the 12th August 2014. And I said it very clearly in that article that no doubt that the Hamas is using their own people as a human shield. I didn't wait for the Amnesty International report, which came out one year after, blaming the Hamas for using their own people as a human shield. I didn't wait for the Human Rights report, which also came out 1 year after the war, blaming the Hamas for using their own people as a human shield. I was in touch with the people in Gaza. And I remember very well the first week of the war, when it was so tough in the north of Gaza, in an area called Beit Lahia. I remember when the Israeli soldiers started texting messages to the people in Beit Lahia that you must have to evacuate your houses. Why they asked them to evacuate their houses? Because the Israeli army in that time discovered the tunnels. And without evacuating the people from their houses, the Israelis will be difficult to destroy these tunnels. When the people stood up and they start getting out of their houses, the Hamas people came to the entrance of Beit Lahia and they start forcing people to go back to their homes by calling them an Israeli traitors. And that's probably one of the reasons why the number of the Palestinian killed people has been increased in that moment. So while the Hamas is pushing their people to be killed, I don't think that the Hamas, in a way or another, will be one day care about their own. Now Gaza has been destroyed. The international community, immediately after the war, they met in Cairo and they discussed the budget of $5.5 billion to be provided to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. What Gaza Strip received since 1.5 years ago, in my opinion, nothing. Why? Because there is a big fight between the Fatah and the Hamas, who is going to take responsibility on the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Because everyone, if it is the Hamas or the Fatah, want to steal the money. They don't want to reconstruct the Gaza Strip. If you are looking today to the Gaza Strip, there are two sides who are very interested in destroying the Gaza Strip. The first one is the Egyptian government. The second one is the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. They are still interested to destroy Gaza Strip. Why the Egyptian? Because the Egyptian believes that the Hamas is a terrorist organization. And the Egyptians believe that the Hamas is still providing help to the terrorists inside Sinai who are fighting the Egyptian government. Why the Palestinian Authority interested in destroying Gaza? Because the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas believes that as much as pressure I will put on Gaza, that will pave the way to the Palestinian Authority to recontrol Gaza Strip again. Now, on the other side, there are two parties who are very interested in the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. The first one is the Hamas. The second one is Israel. Imagine that Israel interested in the reconstruction of Gaza, but we the Palestinians much more interested in destroying of the Gaza Strip. Now, what is the conflict between Israel and Hamas? That Hamas said that the priority of the reconstruction should have to go to our tunnels and our military capability. While Israel said, no way. The priority of the reconstruction should have to go to the houses and the other civil facilities which has been destroyed during the war. And this is how the conflict became so deep towards the Gaza Strip. It's a big conflict between the Israelis, the Palestinians, the Egyptians, and the Hamas. And I didn't see any kind of light that is such obstacle of Gaza Strip is going to be solved in the near future. If we will move to the West Bank, I believe if Mr. Netanyahu tomorrow morning will meet with President Abbas, the first question Netanyahu probably will ask, whom you are representing, Mr. President? West Bank, Gaza Strip, or Palestinian diaspora? I believe that the Palestinian president only representing his two sons and his wife. I don't think that there is who is scared about the president. Which means that we, the Palestinians, almost lost the trust in our own leadership. If you will come today to any ordinary Palestinian and asking him, what are the most three priorities you are seeking? He will say a job to survive, to secure the education system and the health system for my children. Nobody is talking about the wall. Nobody is talking about settlements. Nobody is talking about the foundation of the Palestinian state. Which means that the majority of the Palestinian people are seeking a kind of dignity rather than identity. I don't have any problem with my own identity. Wherever I am going around the world and saying that I am a Palestinian, everybody recognizes me. But if I will say that I am from Abu Dhabi, people will ask a lot of questions. Is it nearby Turkey, far away from Syria? Is it in Asia? Is it in Africa? Which is an existing country in the Gulf. But nobody recognizes it. So I don't have any problem with my identity. I have a big problem with my own dignity. And I think that the majority of the Palestinians are people who are seeking dignity. And dignity can be achieved only via an economic prosperity, not via the recognition of the Palestinian state. There is no state. How you can recognize a state while you don't have the economic sources of the state, while you don't have the infrastructure of the state, while you have 50% of its populations are living in refugee camps? Which kind of state? If France is threatening right now that if Israel is not going to accept its conditions during the coming international conference, if France is going to recognize the Palestinian state, what the recognition of France is going to benefit me when they will recognize the Palestinian state? That recognition will not evaluate one settlement, will not evaluate one checkpoint. So, what is the consequences of such kind of recognition? Almost 2 years ago, in the UN, 138 countries recognized the Palestinian state. But where is the state? I want somebody to stand up and to show me the state. While the president of the state is still needing the Israeli permit, while he wants to go outside the West Bank and to come out. So, it's a big faith. It's a big faith to come and to say that there is a Palestinian state. While I'm going around the West Bank, into villages, into refugee camps, into cities, people coming to me and saying that our daily life became worse and worse after the Oslo, which means that the people already in Gaza miss the settlements and miss the Israeli occupation. That's exactly what people are saying. And under such kind of situation, I am doubt if the Palestinians really, these days, supporting the Palestinian state. Friends, The biggest fault of the international community was that since Oslo Agreement until today, they spent hundreds of billions of dollars into the political issue, and they kept a blind eye on the economy. I am a person who tried to suggest to the international community, let us put the politics aside. I am not really in a hurry for the establishment of the Palestinian state, because either to have a real state or to continue being stateless. And the international community should have to start focusing on the economic prosperity to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I believe that economy will be able to pave the way towards any future solution in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We almost failed in politics, and the international community must have to stand up and to recognize its biggest fault, how they treated the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. If you look today, what is surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's horrible. It's horrible. It looks like that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the most safe place right now in the Middle East. I don't want to be in Syria. I don't want to be in Iraq. I don't want to be in Libya. I don't want to be in Yemen. And that's reminding me, a few days ago, I read a very interesting article in Arabic in one of the most famous Arabic websites. The article was written by Saudi Arabia journalist. The title of the article, Israel disappeared from the Arab media scene. Very interesting. Arabs use all the time whatever happening in the Arab countries to blame Israel. If somebody will get a heart attack in Yemen, Israel is responsible. If somebody falling from the second floor in Syria, Israel is responsible. So if Israel right now disappeared from the Arab media, that's wonderful. Means that the Arabs right now are criticizing themselves. Israel shouldn't have to be blamed on what's going on in the Middle East. So Arabs are against Arabs. Muslims are against Muslims. This looks like the third world war which is going to happen right now in the Middle East. It's an typical Islamic war. So when I am looking as a Palestinian to what is surrounding me, I say thanks to God that I am here, not there. And I think that the people almost realized that probably under the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they still have much better future than other Palestinians in any other Arab country. Look to Syria. There is no one more Palestinian refugee in Syria. Either he killed or he escaped out of the country. Look what's going on in Iraq. Look what's going on between the Shia and the Sunni. So where we are living. And in the meantime, for the international community, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not the priority anymore. The priority is how to put an end for the Islamic State and its terror, which is growing day by day. And that's making the Palestinian Authority very upset on the international community, while nobody is mentioning the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And probably this is the main reason why the last storm of violence since 6 months ago took place in Jerusalem and in the West Bank. Because according to one of the articles which I read 4 or 5 days ago in Haaretz newspaper, they said that Abbas is gaining power from violence more than peace. Which means that this is the interest of the Palestinian Authority to escalate the situation in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank. What is our president doing right now? Sitting in his mukaka in Ramadan, waiting for one Palestinian to be killed and to declare on him as a martyr. And on the next day, to meet with his family and probably to give the family between $2,000 to $3,000. This is what the president is waiting for. Waiting to sacrifice more and more from his people. Is that person deserve to be president? I don't think so. This is probably the golden opportunity for the Palestinians right now. Not to make a Palestinian spring, but to conduct a kind of a Palestinian revolutionary against such kind of a corrupt leadership, which is the youngest of them, almost 78 years old. By stabbing, I think that this is the most barbaric thing that I ever saw in my life. And I said it very clearly in my articles, even in Arabic, that we should have to stop it in a way or another. Not only the Israelis should stop it, we should have to. Because we are the one who is going to pay the higher price for such kind of stab. Stabbing will never bring peace. Stabbing will never donate to the Palestinian independence. Stabbing will never ever create a Palestinian state. Violence will bring violence. And I think that the majority of the people almost realize that this is not the way to make peace with the Israelis. And this is not the way to force the Israelis to make peace with the Palestinians. Friends, the situation looks like much more complicated than you are thinking. It's a very dark picture. It's a very disturbing picture. How I am looking to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Sometimes people ask me, are you optimistic? I said, for what? For what to be optimistic? While people are killed, never mind if it is from the Israeli side or the Palestinian side, it is the tragedy. It is the tragedy. How I can be optimistic while the bloodshed is still taking place in the Israeli Palestine? Now, besides what is going on, you have such horrible organizations like the G Street organization, like the Jewish Voice for Peace, like the Students for Justice in Palestine, and like the BDS, who are trying to sacrifice the both sides, not only the Israelis but also on Israel, they never ever suggest any kind of alternative to the Palestinians. Today, we have 92,000 Palestinians who are crossing early morning the old checkpoints from the West Bank to inside Israel and going to work inside Israel. 92,000. Besides that, we have another 15,000 Palestinian workers who are entering every day to the settlements in the West Bank and building the settlements. We couldn't boycott Israel. Working in Israel is the only source of income to the Palestinians. Imagine if Israel tomorrow will decide to boycott the Palestinians. What will happen? We will starve. We will start crying, help. We should have also to understand our side, not only our own side. So the BDS, no doubt that they want to destroy the state of Israel. They are not interested in any kind of peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, because they never suggest any kind of initiative between the Israelis and the Palestinians to bring any kind of peace. And by calling to boycott Israel, that will damage the Palestinian economy. Friends, probably you heard about the soda stream factory, which has been moved from the West Bank to the south of Israel. What are the consequences? 2,500 Palestinians has been kicked out from their jobs. Besides that, thousands of children of these workers almost lost their medical insurance. This is what the BDS said. When I met with tens of these workers who have been kicked out from the soda stream, I asked them one question. Do you know who kicked you out from your job? He said, no, I don't know. I said, the BDS. He said, oh my God, show me the BDS, I want to kill him. Which means people has no idea what does it mean BDS and what is the BDS is doing. We don't have any BDS, by the way, in the West Bank. We don't have it. Because it is much more comfortable for the BDS to act in the United States and to act in Europe. But if they will go to one Palestinian refugee camp and calling to boycott Israel, I believe that people will throw shoes on them. Because there is no alternative. What is the alternative? What is the alternative? So the BDS, I consider them as a prelude of a genocide to the Palestinian people. I wrote a lot. I went publicly inside the campuses in the United States fighting against such kind of thugs and gangsters. These people used to be jobless and they found a job for themselves. And this is another organization who want to survive on the suffering of the Palestinian people. We almost witnessed so many organizations who are really surviving on the suffering of the Palestinian people, like the UN as an example, like UNRWA as an example. UNRWA yearly budget is $1.4 billion. What they are doing to the Palestinian refugees in the past 68 years. While countries are still contributing money to UNRWA. UNRWA is one of the organizations who are trying to kill the Israeli-Palestinian conflict going on. They are not interested in any kind of solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Because the UNRWA employees, if they will solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, then the UNRWA employees will become refugees and jobless. So in such kind of organizations, I don't think that there is any Palestinian who authorized these groups to speak on behalf of us. How they found themselves, who authorized them to talk on behalf of us, we have no idea. Who is supporting these organizations? I believe that the countries who are supporting these organizations are the same countries who are supporting the terror in the Middle East. Because BDS is terrorizing the both sides, the Israeli side and the Palestinian side. And I think that communities should have to stand up very strongly in turn to put an end for such growing and development of such kind of organizations. We shouldn't have to provide any help. We should have to fight these people even inside their houses, because they are going to damage two nations here, to terrorize two nations here, which is the Israelis and the Palestinians. In my opinion, my last message is that I am here and I am around most of the campuses in the US to point out the sickness of the Palestinians. In turn, to ask the international community for the medicine of such kind of sickness. If we will keep such kind of sickness inside us without talking about it, that will be a disaster, and probably we will die from such kind of disease. So it is much better to put it on the table, to tell the international community what we are suffering from. In my opinion, the majority of the Palestinians right now shouldn't be considered as the victims of the occupation. They should be considered as the victims of their own leadership. If we will go back to the 1930s until today, how many opportunities our leadership almost lost? And we became so experts on losing opportunities. We remember the white plantation in July 2000, when Ehud Barak suggested to withdraw from 97% of the occupied territories, which has been rejected by Yasser Arafat. So who told you that the Palestinian leadership is interested in a Palestinian state? Who told you? I don't think that the Palestinian Authority wants a state. Because the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for the Palestinian Authority is a commercial conflict rather than it is a political conflict. If we will have a state tomorrow, who is going to pay the $100 million every month for salaries? No one. No one will pay. So why to make a state? It's much better to be stateless. because that became a source of income to our own leaders. So I think that the situation is not going to be changed very soon. Sometimes people said, how you can solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? I don't think that it is my job to solve it. I can put on the table what are the obstacles in solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and then it is the turn of the international community to start finding a kind of solutions to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In my opinion, this conflict at least, it probably will need another 10 years. And I am quite sure, if I will be invited to Mexico after 10 years, I am going to speak the same words here. Don't be optimistic, but in the meantime, I don't want to provoke anybody of you. Don't expect any near future solution to the Israeli-Palestinian. And what I used to say all the time, that we the Palestinians, we probably need one more generation to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Because probably from the current generation, a powerful, charismatic leader will be born, and then he will have the courage to come and to solve the problem. But with such corrupt leaders, I didn't see any kind of future. Now, if you will ask me, what is the alternative to Abbas? I will tell you that there is no alternative to Abbas. And this is one of the major problems, is the lack of a leadership among the Palestinians. I believe if any elections will take place tomorrow in the West Bank, Abbas will be re-elected. And then we are going to be stuck for the coming 10 years. Sometimes, when I told Palestinians that what about Muhammad Dahlan as an example? Muhammad Dahlan is a prominent Fatah member who has a big fight with Abbas right now, and Abbas almost expelled him to outside the West Bank. And he is right now living in Dubai. When I say to the people, what about Muhammad Dahlan to be the next leader? Then people said, listen, but Muhammad Dahlan also corrupt. I said, you are right, but I prefer a young corrupt than an old corrupt. Because it looks like everybody is corrupt. But still, I need a solution from these corrupt people. I need a solution. I succeed to survive under the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm not quite sure that our children will succeed to survive under the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So in order to ensure the future of our children, we probably should have to do a lot. And I think that we, the Palestinians, should have to be blamed on what's going on. Because the conflict has two sides, not only one side, not only Israel, but also the Palestinians. And as the international community is talking, criticizing Israel, I think that they must also have to criticize the silence of the Palestinian Authority on the whole storm of violence which is taking place right now in Jerusalem and in the West Bank. Friends, I want to close the evening by saying that there is a very nice Israeli song by a very famous Israeli singer called Yoav Yitzhaki. And he started his song by saying, זה הזמן לסלוח, לוותר ולזכוח, which means this is the time for forgiveness. This is the time to give up and to forget. If we will follow these two important things, I think that our future will be much more lightened than it used to be. I would like to thank you so much and to say, תחיו ותרבו וישר כוח לכולנו.